start.
All right, very good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Park. I am the Dean of the Graduate School of Business. The Graduate School of Business at Nazarbayev University has big ambitions. We want to be known well beyond Kazakhstan for our solid academic research. We want to be known in Kazakhstan also for our applied research in business and how we benchmark globally. We also want to be known in Kazakhstan for our engagement with industry. In academic research, we're already well known beyond the borders of Kazakhstan, with roughly 30,000 citations in peer-reviewed journals from around the world. Our faculty is respected and often cited for their insights in business processes. We engage with industry through our degree programs, our executive programs, and our award-winning case studies. The category of applied research brings us to today's topic and presentation of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor annual survey results. Since 2014, the Graduate School of Business has been the representative school for Kazakhstan as part of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor project. This global project annually interviews approximately 200,000 entrepreneurs and experts to monitor how entrepreneurship evolves around the world. In Kazakhstan itself, more than 2,000 entrepreneurs and experts are interviewed to describe the entrepreneurship environment in Kazakhstan and benchmark it with the rest of the world. We regard this as an important policy tool for government decision makers to understand what measures will encourage and facilitate entrepreneurship as an important driving force for the growth of the economy. And we're very proud today to present you the results of the most recent survey. The results of this yearly survey inform business researchers about the most important drivers or barriers to entrepreneurship and use academic research to give guidance about the size of the measures to be applied. In other words, the GEM survey pretty much tells policymakers what to address, while our deep academic research provides insight on how much or how large the measures should be. In other words, the survey is built around identification of challenges and problems. Our research is about optimization, how to fine-tune everything. With the latter in mind, I'm also very proud to announce to you today the launch of our Nazarbayev University Research Center on Entrepreneurship. And later in the afternoon, Professor Yousafzai will provide you with more information on our new research center focused especially on entrepreneurship. So without further delay, we're gonna move to today's program. We'll start with Nurlan Kulbatirov, who is a member of our national team, but also the Deputy Director of the QazTrade Center for Trade Policy Development, who will tell you a little bit about the global results, how entrepreneurship globally has evolved. We'll follow then with a presentation by the Chief Administrative Officer of the Graduate School of Business, Turgambayev, who will tell you a little bit more about specifically the results in Kazakhstan. After that, Professor Shumaila Yousafzai will present what we are intending to do with the Nazarbayev University Research Center on Entrepreneurship. After that, Professor Joep Konings will lead a very interesting panel of industry experts on what actually this all means and what the challenges are currently for entrepreneurship in Kazakhstan. And we'll close off the afternoon with some closing remarks by Professor Venkat Subramanian, who is the associate dean, one of the associate deans of the Graduate School of Business. So without further delay, I'm gonna stop sharing my slides and I'm gonna hand it over to Nurlan Kulbatirov. Nurlan, the floor is yours.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники.
Good day, dear participants. Can you see my presentation?
We can.
As you know, the project GEM of Kazakhstan joined this team of global research in 2014, and I would like to say about the background shortly. And the global monitor is the leading research in the sphere of entrepreneurship. And so 2 years, more than 22 years of collecting data, more than 2,100 interview with experts and population representatives. Also, more than 500 specialists working in this project. And I would like to mention also that in 2015, as you can see, the first national report was presented in May 2015, and with the help of Ministry of Industry and Economical Development. This report was presented on the 10th of February 2022 on the Expo 2020 in Dubai. It was presented, and the research it took 500 specialists, and 45% of population was covered. I would like to mention that it's implemented with the help of Nazarbayev University and national team where many experts are included. If talking about the global tendencies in the global report, in GEM report 2021, as Kazakhstan is belongs to Group B, and this is the big picture. In Kazakhstan, the level of the entrepreneurship is around 20%. So we are at the level of Saudi Arabia and Canada. And also would like to mention some aspects for those who start the business and who run the existing businesses, that the pandemic brought to some new possibilities. As you can see here, Kazakhstan had some new possibilities for entrepreneurship and less possibilities for the existing and running businesses. I also would like to mention that the general level of entrepreneurship among the adult population, if you look at the age groups starting from 18 up to 34, the activity is higher. You can have a look at this diagram, and also the level of the early stage entrepreneurship activity. Here it's divided on gender aspect, and so the early stage activity is higher with women than men, and it's connected with a policy which is kept in the country. We are trying to develop several different tools on the governmental level, and during the Corona crisis, it was mentioned that there were some tools were implemented to support the businesses. Last year, it was announced that within frame of the development bank, lots of tools were implemented, and You can see here that other countries, the men have the bigger share than in entrepreneurship than in Kazakhstan. And here in the global report of GEM report and the national context index, that's the estimation of the national index. And here this index is organized upon the data which is comes from the policies from the government, and 34% took part in this survey, and you can see that the average point is higher than in average, and the global tendencies here are that it's getting to the digitalization sphere, to the green SME, and the issues connected with entrepreneurship. And during the corona crisis, some people started business due to the losing jobs, and that's all from my side. That's shortly, briefly about the annual report. Sorry, your mic is off.
Patrick, you're muted.
The most famous question used in the world these days. You're muted. Nurlan, thank you so much for the very interesting presentation. Some good news, I think, the fact that we are above average in the entrepreneurship index, I think, is very much good news for us, but we still have some way to go. I'll hand it over now to Yerkin Turgambayev to discuss the national report and specifically the results for Kazakhstan. Yerkin?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Do you hear me and do you see my screen?
We do.
Yes. Okay. Since the most of the participants are Russian speaking, I will continue in Russian. Здравствуйте, уважаемые гости и участники сегодняшнего мероприятия. Я рад приветствовать.
Dear participants, I'm pleased to welcome you at our panel discussion, which will definitely become the good platform for discussion about the business in Kazakhstan. As Nurlan mentioned, the GEM report consists of two parts. The first is the population survey, and the next chest, that's the expert part. And shortly about the population survey, I would like to mention that detailed results is based upon the last year data, and it could slightly be different with the report that Nurlan presented, because there's a half a year delay. Okay, let's start from the social values about the entrepreneurship. In the 2020, the entrepreneurship was chosen as a good choice of occupation in comparison with other years, especially so entrepreneurs are considered to be a high level people in the society, and the results of Kazakhstan in this status issue is very were much higher than the average index on global GEM report. It is connected that it's a very attractive sphere for the population, more than the work force as an employee. And self-perception about the entrepreneurship is the perceived good opportunities, perceived capabilities, and fear of failure, and the entrepreneurial intentions that are derived from there. And so this year showed that all these opportunities, capabilities were down in comparison with 2017. And the fear of failure also went down in comparison with that period. If we compare these indicators with the average indicators, we could see that it's very close to the average indicators with in comparison with countries with high and middle income level. And as you can see that the fear of failure is rather low in comparison with other countries. So GEM evaluate some different stages of entrepreneurship. That's the new business ownership rate, established business ownership rate, and the EU rates, and the established business ownership rate. So the early stage entrepreneurial rate, that's the evaluation of the people trying to start the business, and it covers the new beginners and the also the existing business which are starting new businesses. And we can see that almost all indicators except E rates significantly went up. And the diagram shows the discontinuation rates is going up. Here, the tier of rate in Kazakhstan is somewhere in low and middle income countries. But as Nurlan showed, this indicator went down in 2020 and was close to the average GEM. When we connect this with the pandemic issue. The important indicator is the business discontinuance. Those respondents that closed their businesses due to some circumstances and reasons. In 2020, around 20% of the reason was the lack of profit. We understand that this steep dynamics is connected with the pandemic, and as you know, the economic activity decreased significantly due to this pandemic, and you can see the lack of profit in Kazakhstan is much higher than in several groups of countries. And as I said, the business discontinuance due to the lack of profit is connected with pandemic. In 2020, the entrepreneurial impact and expectations of number of workplaces were much worse than the previous years. As you can see here, we can see the big decrease. Only 5% of entrepreneurship were expected to create new job workplaces, and it's in comparison with 2017, it went down significantly, and it was all it's all connected with the and described explained as the situation with the unsustainable situation due to the pandemic. Here's the interesting diagram which covers the distribution of the profits, that 99% of the respondents were expecting the profits coming from domestic markets, and only 1% of the entrepreneurship were expecting the profit to come from abroad. And so, and here, although this tendency is very similar to what we can see in other countries, but the orientation of Kazakhstani entrepreneurs to the domestic market is very high, and it's very significant to create the the correct frameworks to for our entrepreneurs to go to the international markets. The next part of my position is the National Expert Survey, which is also a very significant component of GEM, and it gives the vision of about the different segments in our country. 36 experts were interviewed, and 20% were entrepreneurs, and 50% were professionals. So, and they were divided within gender, experience, and other aspects. And on this diagram on this slide, I will pay more attention because it shows our the entrepreneurial framework conditions and the conditions in Kazakhstan. Here, the Kazakhstani rates and the is much less, much lower than in the many other countries. And the financing the entrepreneurship shows that the experts are still positive about the access to the finance. In comparison with the previous years, we can see the degrees of financing the venture and other international projects. We can see that Kazakhstan got very high rates in governmental support and tax and governmental support. We are in 16th place, and in general, the support from the government were rated very high from the experts' point of view. And the average indicator of Kazakhstan in the governmental programs is pretty much average. We are on the 20th place, and Kazakhstani experts evaluated very high the possibility of entrepreneurs to get the assistance from the one agency of government. At the same time, the experts see that the competency of the governmental services is decreasing within some years. And as for the educational rate, we are in the average GEM rating, but as for the post high school education, we have much worse positions, and it shows that this sphere of entrepreneurship needs some improvement. And also here we can see that the research and development transfer is only 3%, and we are only on the 25th place out of 40 countries, and so we are in the end of this list, and we need to put some more efforts to improve the situations, to get more knowledge from the research institutes and other educational organizations to the new raising businesses, and these businesses don't have an access to the research database, and the development of the sphere would help to establish world level enterprises in Kazakhstan. A very significant is the commercial and professional infrastructure. We are here on the 33rd third place out of 45 countries. And expert says that the new rising companies don't have a good access to subcontractors, and also they evaluate the accounting services that they are getting much better quality. Kazakhstan has a very good dynamic rates, 10th out of 45. And as for the regulating of the market, the experts were evaluating the market as sustainable, but the opportunity to get to some new markets, the experts were very skeptic about. And the expert said that the effectiveness of anti-monopoly regulations is also going down. As for the physical infrastructure, we are only in the 39th place. But if we would look at the dynamics, as for the access to the communications and utility, we are getting more positive estimations. And the experts said that the availability of good office premises is at very good level. And at the end, as for the cultural and social norms, the experts rated that we are somewhere in the middle, the 24th place out of 45. And here the support for the initiative and the natural culture support is also went up in comparison with previous years. And we have one slide which is devoted to experts' assessment of the entrepreneurs' response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In general, the expert said that substantial number of new and growing firms are adopting new ways of doing business and prompting work from home and making adjustments to their current products and services. And besides that, the experts that due to the pandemic, the government increased the digitalized services to the growing businesses. And this the factor analysis was used to make this synthetic view of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Here, it was rated out of 9 system, and summarizing our report, we can say that the Kazakhstani ecosystem has some strong features like support from government and the programs of development and commercial and legal sphere. And the dynamic of the low domestic market is also rated highly. But as for the educational sphere and the research institutes transference of the data needs to be improved. And also these research parks and incubators must get much more support. Besides that, within each category, there could be some weak features that needs to be improved consistently. For example, the share financing is not sufficient, which is does not help to develop and start the big projects. And this slide summarizes the main constraints and facilitators of entrepreneurship in Kazakhstan. The experts mentioned that government policies can be also a barrier if it's not transparent and non-systematic and non-informative. because due to the pandemic, the government put some restrictions, and also corruption is the big challenge, which gives some hard times for entrepreneurship to start up the business. And the economic climate is not developed well. And the market openness is one of the constraints of the entrepreneurship. It's connected with the too much of the surveillance from the government, and education and training is also constrained. Nevertheless, in general, it's the good, the political, institutional, and social context works in favor of entrepreneurs. There are many active people with entrepreneurship features, and experts mentioned that the government programs are very significant to develop the new businesses, and the physical also the low level of competitiveness is also gives the both negative and positive factors of development of the entrepreneurship. And to summarize everything, the main recommendation for the entrepreneur to develop the entrepreneurial system, the experts gave their recommendations, which are similar with, we can see that 98% of the recommendations belongs to government policies, financial support for entrepreneurship 42%, education and training 28%, political, institutional, and social context is 25%, and government programs 22%. And the rest of the recommendations are there. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Turgambayev, for this really interesting summary of the results as they apply to Kazakhstan specifically. As usual, there is good news and there are challenges. Some of the good news is that the government is very supportive for entrepreneurship. We also see that Kazakhstan is considered a country where doing business is fairly easy, which is quite consistent with the rankings of the World Bank Group, where Kazakhstan is ranked number 22 out of 190 countries. So with respect to ease of doing business, Kazakhstan is ranked better than any of its neighbors, including China and Russia. On the challenging side, of course, there are a few things, and some of the highlights that I will take away from this is that as a country, we need to do better in entrepreneurship education. At Nazarbayev University, we have tried to contribute our part. We have, over the last few years, trained more than 4,000 entrepreneurs in our SME program. We need to do better as a country in research and development transfer. And so at Nazarbayev University, the schools of science and education are especially encouraged to use our commercialization services to make sure that the interesting research findings and results get commercialized and turned into products. And finally, financing needs to be improved as well, which is also why we have started a strong group in finance at the Graduate School of Business. Entrepreneurship as an interest area is one of our focus areas at the Graduate School of Business, and I'm very proud to introduce to you right now Professor Shumaila Yousafzai, who will tell you a little bit about the Nazarbayev University Research Center on Entrepreneurship that we just launched and of which Professor Yousafzai is the director. Professor Yousafzai, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Actually, all what you said are the reasons that's why this research center has been initiated. And as you explained, in the Graduate School of Business, we have world-class faculty that is doing research that is being published in the top journals in the world. So, you know, when we do research, we academics, the value of that research can be amplified more, and it can create more practical value when it is combined with the experiences of the people that we are researching about. And this research center is all about that. That is to combine the research that we academics are doing in the Graduate School of Business and collaborate with the entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan, because we want to create value for them. We want to amplify their voices. And this research center is basically a platform where entrepreneurs and academics will collaborate. And to take it one step further, our ultimate aim is to influence the policies of Kazakhstan government and of the NGO sector of the UN agencies that are working here for the advancement of entrepreneurship in the country. We want to take the voices of the entrepreneurs together with our research and give a direction to those policies. So basically, it's a collaborative platform, and we are very happy that this initiative has finally taken place. And another aim of a collaborative aim of this research center is also to collaborate with the universities, other academics in Kazakhstan. So we have a lot to learn from them, because you know, they are mainly, you know, a lot of them have contacts with entrepreneurs and they are working with them, and they have to learn from us, because the way we work in Nazarbayev University is a little bit different. It's a research oriented university. So this collaboration, I'm very excited about, to collaborate with Kazakh academics, with entrepreneurs, and to influence government and NGO sector policies. And yeah, basically amplify the voices of entrepreneurs. Especially in my case, I will be working with the women entrepreneurs and disabled entrepreneurs. These are the entrepreneurs that we don't really talk about. So I'm very excited about that. We have lined up a very exciting series of events, which we will be talking about in a few months' time. And we will be inviting a lot of people that are here today in this meeting as well. I just want to share with you our team that we have just hired. So the founders of this Entrepreneurship Research Center are myself and my colleagues from GSB, Ona, and Atanu. They are both professors in management and economics at GSB. Together, the three of us, through the fundings that we got, the grants from Nazarbayev University, and with the blessings of Patrick and our colleagues, we have initiated this center. We have hired a very good team of young people who are very, excited to work with us. We have people who have studied abroad and they have come back to Kazakhstan. Some research assistants we have hired who will be coming from abroad and working with us today, working with us in this program. So the three main programs that we are going to work on are the projects on Kazakhstan's entrepreneurial ecosystem, studying that. And Ona and Atanu will be working on a project related to technology entrepreneurship. And myself and my team, we will be working towards community-based tourism and how it can create more empowerment for women entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan, looking for from the experiences of CBT's success in Kyrgyzstan. And these are the three projects that we are working on. I would like to invite my co-founder, Ona, to say a few words as well about the projects that he's doing. So Ona, would you like to say a few words?
It's now I'm unmuted. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much, Shumaila, for introducing the center. So one of the questions we want to understand is, we want to understand what role technology incubators play in helping entrepreneurs restart. Now, we know that digital technology has practically changed the way business is done. Whether it's in the airline industry, it's in the hotel industry, even in universities, digital technology has changed the way business is done. And we've seen how we read in the papers about firms like Google, like Facebook, like Uber, like Airbnb. These are unicorns, these are successful stories from Silicon Valley. And the question that is often asked is often forgotten is that there are lots of businesses that fail in Silicon Valley. For every Google that you see, there are 100 other companies that fail. In a sense, Google failure is not so interesting. What's interesting in a place like Silicon Valley, where we admire Silicon Valley for the kinds of companies they're able to produce. What's interesting is not failure, but the ability to restart after failure. So what we want to understand is, we want to understand the role that the technology incubators in Kazakhstan play in helping Kazakh entrepreneurs restart their businesses, re-enter into the field of entrepreneurship, re-enter into the game after they fail, because failure is going to happen. It's inevitable in technology entrepreneurship. But what role do the incubators play? So that's one very important project that my colleague Atan and I are going to be spending some time researching. Sure.
Thank you, Ona. And as I just said in the beginning, this is a collaborative platform. All of you here who are present, please feel free to reach out to us through Yarken, directly to us, or through Nur Alim, or through Patrick, whatever that you find comfortable. Tell us, are there any projects? Are there any research questions? Is there anything that we can help you with conducting the research? Any problems we can solve for you? We'll be very happy to collaborate with you. This research center is here to stay and to create value for the entrepreneurs and for the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Kazakhstan, and we all have to work together to make it a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shumaila, and thank you, Ona. We consider it one of our main objectives to help create this ecosystem, to make Astana in the first place, where our home is, but Kazakhstan in general, a center for entrepreneurship and innovation in the whole region and ultimately in the world. We want to help create this ecosystem so that commercialization of research can happen, so that companies that do fail, like companies in Silicon Valley, as Ona indicated, immediately can go and work for other companies and use the insights of their failure to do a lot better the next time. And so create a very entrepreneurial ecosystem and culture here in Astana and in Kazakhstan. Tourism, of course, is one of these areas that Professor Yousafzai mentioned. That is a huge untapped market in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a huge country that has mountains, lake districts, deserts, beaches. We have it all, but we haven't really exploited it well. And I think that's a huge untapped market for entrepreneurship as well. With that, we will move on now to one of the very engaging parts of this afternoon, which is a panel discussion that will be moderated by Professor Joep Konings. We'll discuss, as we indicated earlier on, what the needs and challenges are for entrepreneurship. And we brought together a real interesting panel of experts, entrepreneurs, consultants that help to make it work in Kazakhstan. And Professor Konings will introduce the panel. Over to you, Joep.
Thank you, Dean Duparc, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. It's a great pleasure to be able to coordinate this fascinating panel. As Patrick said, of experts, captains of industries. Let me start by introducing them. We have Rustam Jurjonov, who is the business ombudsman of Kazakhstan. We have Eric Jambulov, who is the Director, Entrepreneurship Development Policy Department at the Ministry of the National Economy. We have Bolat Minbayev, who is the Director and the Head of Strategy and Operations Group at KPMG in Central Asia. And then we have Asem Kenjebek, who is the founder of biotech Caral Company. And finally, we have Danyar Ultushov, who is the CEO of Actau Azimuth Limited. And so let me summarize a little bit again what I take home from the excellent and exciting findings that were presented so far. It's standing out that entrepreneurship is not so bad in Kazakhstan. The index is comparable to Japan and Italy, in fact. Entrepreneurs, however, are mainly focused on the domestic economy. Very interesting as well, I thought, and we'll talk about it hopefully a bit more. There are more female entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan than in other countries. And it also stands out that Kazakhstan seems to be hit more by the pandemic, as shown in discontinuations of enterprises, which was mainly due to a larger drop in profits than in other countries. And so I would like to start the discussion with the panel, focusing on the top 3 constraints that were also mentioned, top 3 constraints for entrepreneurship. And it's actually important to kind of think about policies related to lifting such constraints, as we all know that entrepreneurship and economic growth is highly correlated. So the top 3 constraints for entrepreneurship in Kazakhstan were listed in the survey were government policies and corruption, financial support for entrepreneurship, and market openness. So I would like to ask our panel whether they share that view that these are the key constraints, or what do they perceive and experience as key constraints for entrepreneurship, but perhaps more importantly, once you have set up a company, for further growth, because what we all want, of course, is that entrepreneurs, part of them, become the new gazelles of the future. So if I can ask perhaps Rustam to start sharing a few thoughts on this. Can I also ask to the panel to be brief in your answers so that we can have opinions and suggestions and discussions of all panel members in the limited time frame we have. So Rustam, would you be willing to share your first thoughts and views on what you feel are the key constraints for entrepreneurship and what policies could do about it?
Thank you, Joseph. Colleagues, I would like to greet everybody. I would like to start from something else. We are for 2 years in post-pandemic period, and it has a very big impact on the entrepreneurship. And I would like to pay attention to this because we've got some specific features. If we look at the 2020, it was the ideal storm when the entrepreneurship of Kazakhstan was hit by 2 hits. The domestic, the lowering of the price, and the second part is the restrictions. And I would like to mention 2 numbers here, that in January of last year, we have 50,000 representatives of entrepreneurship, and 50% of them used the governmental support. The top 3 aspects is the lowering the taxation from government and delays of tax pays, and the biggest vulnerable sphere is the restaurants, and because the rest of the part of the economy, we've had also the service sphere of Kazakhstan interview, and the number, the 17% of the this entrepreneurs reduce the numbers of workplaces. And so the 3 big constraints we could see in the August. So the restrictions of work, 25%, the lack of finance to pay the loans, 30%, and 15% belongs to a lack of financing for rental payments. And, you know, we also estimate the business climate, and we could see that the mood of different entrepreneurs in different Kazakhstani cities was differentiated to the due to the certain numbers of days of restrictions in the different regions of Kazakhstan. And so Nur-Sultan had 224 days of restrictions. The Akmola Oblast had 184 days of restrictions a year. And Almaty city had also a very big number of restrictions. Every second entrepreneur talks about the worsening of the climate. So I would like, you know, not to generalize the policies, but maybe to focus on something. You know, that Eric would also mention that within this year, the new concept that is being developed, and the numbers shows that right now we have 1,357,000 entrepreneurs existing, running, and only 0.4%, so it's 1,200 belongs to the big entrepreneurs, and the rest is the SMEs. And so this structure does not change, and it's not a very good sign for us. And we look at the role of the SMEs, it gives only 9% of fiscal payments. That's a very minor share. We have 1,000 biggest companies gives 80% of the fiscal payments, and that's why.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that you make a very good point. And so let me also.
I'm leading to the main point, because.
Could you please, because we want to also talk, I mean, have the opinions of the other colleagues. So try to be brief and close your first. You'll have time to come back to you later on as well. So yes, please go ahead.
Yes, of course. And I would like to pay your attention that we need to focus our governmental policies on the policy of growing and enlarging the business, because the SMEs do not go to export, and we need the finance and non-finance support from the government to the growing companies. And of course, the crucial thing here is creating the new workplaces. Is a very, you know, around 3 million workplaces belongs to SMEs. And maybe in my talk, I will also have some other comments. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Rustam. I think you shared a number of very important insights and points which could be built on by some other colleagues in the panel. So I think one important one is that you said that 80% of the value added is really in the big firms, and only 20% or less in the smaller firms, the SMEs. And so a challenge is indeed how to make these SMEs grow into larger firms and more important firms to contribute more to the economy. And I think another point you raised very well is also that the pandemic was a bit problematic as well for entrepreneurship. You already referred, I think, to Eric. Eric, could you do you share the same analysis, or are there other elements that you can bring into the debate? I think, for instance, also one of the issues is that, of course, and it came also out of the GEM study, that a lot of the entrepreneurship the small businesses are focused on the domestic market, while often the growth lies in the international market. So perhaps Eric, could you share some of your views on this, building on what Rustam said, and try again be brief. So let's say within 5 minutes, and then we can come back later on to all of you once everybody has shared some of the points. Go ahead, please, Eric.
Hello, everybody. If you don't mind, I will continue in Russian.
I'm very glad to be at this event. This is a very broad event, which includes a lot of experts. I made a study of the report very detailedly, and Mr. Zhursunov already mentioned that we need to take into account. We also work on reducing the burden on business. We want to facilitate the entrance of new players on the market. But it was mentioned correctly by Mr. Rustam that it's a big problem to implement the quality transfer of small businesses into medium business category. Currently, the concept for the development of entrepreneurship is being developed. Small and medium entrepreneurs until 2030, which also includes a number of approaches how to make a quality step ahead to create business convenient conditions. Moreover, this concept also reviews the stimulation of medium businesses to enter international market. Why? Because we all know that entrepreneurship is a driver of economy of any country, and we also agree on this position with the whole world. Currently, together with Business Ombudsman Office, we conduct a lot of activities with the National Chamber of Entrepreneurs in order to reduce administrative burden on business at maximum for small and medium business. The last address from the January this year defined a certain direction to move to focus on the support and development of small and medium enterprises and facilitate transfer of small businesses to medium businesses, and also generate large businesses and create a lot of jobs. Of course, it includes some social aspects for businesses. From last year, Institute of Social Entrepreneurs is acting, and I think that in future, this institute will work very well. Now it's underestimated, but this is a very future-oriented task too. Of course, to develop entrepreneurship, we need to take into account female entrepreneurship. We need to create conditions in order to develop female entrepreneurship. These are just general views, and I think I will answer more questions during discussion together with Mr. Zhursunov. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric. And I think you raised a number of important issues, also mentioned by Rustam already. It's the challenge to grow out of a small business, become more a medium-sized business. And so the administrative burden is often a problem. You also touched upon some other points. Perhaps let me move to our colleague from KPMG, Mr. Minbayev. Bolat, because KPMG is often also involved in analyzing tax systems and things like that. So Do you see any, from your experience working with entrepreneurs, that taxes and maybe also international taxation is a potential burden? Of course, taxes are extremely low in Kazakhstan. That has a flip side of it, because maybe sometimes also some particular public facilities are then not always available. So do you see any constraints at that level? Bolat, please go ahead.
Yeah, Joseph, colleagues, good day. Thanks for inviting. Actually, quite honored to be on that panel. Let me also to follow my colleagues' steps and switch to Russian if possible. Да, уважаемые коллеги, добрый день.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. In general, I agree to all the tendencies that were mentioned by my colleagues. Mr. Kostam already mentioned the topic of problem, how to transfer from small to medium to large businesses, because the small and medium businesses input into economy is not significant. So we have seen already the same situation in 2015. So we still have a lot of number of small and medium enterprises, small businesses in the country. So of course we need to focus on growing the transfer of small and medium enterprises. So of course we have a lot of burdens and limitations, like the administration, the fiscal issues. They are not desired to be potential target for undesirable access to businesses at limited conditions. So of course, we have seen it in 2019. We made a study on direct investment in Kazakhstan conditions. So we proved the hypothesis that there is no enough trust of potential investors to third parties, third country. Joseph, returning to your question about taxation, we still tell that the taxation is very soft in Kazakhstan. So we have the tax rate, which is 12%. So we have a lot of preferences and benefits. So from the point of view of the tax rate, it's a very important issue. So I don't want to repeat a lot of examples that were already mentioned. So where I do see some limitations, I can say that I agree that today we have a task to help small and medium enterprises and their services to external markets. Kazakhstan market is very narrow, so the opportunities are limited. And we have now attempts of companies to go to outer markets, but we need to help them to go to external markets. We analyzed 5 industries that can potentially go to external markets. So first of all, it's Central Asia countries, China, of course, and I would like to tell about my key theses. So I agree with my colleagues. So the liquidity share is maximum, and the loan portfolio is narrowed. Of course, not all the participants are ready to finance in real sectors of economy, but the businesses are not ready to provide developed projects. We analyzed one of the state programs, and we have seen that the biggest part was not related to the bank. So the state and financial institutions should help the entrepreneurs. Of course, the additional funding is needed for the small and medium enterprises. Of course, they need help to go to external markets. Of course, we need to develop some alternative tools like back factoring, supply chain finance. So the funding for light assets and other types of assets. So we made studies in 6 CIS countries, and we see that our country is similar to other CIS countries. And of course, we need an assistance from the banks, but sometimes banks do not know about the opportunities that they can provide to their market, to their businesses. And we need to be involved in the development of specific programs, how to assist banks to help the businesses. How to get funding by the businesses. Of course, the direct investments market is very limited. The president already mentioned the measures, state support measures, how to distribute the wealth in Kazakhstan. We tested the hypothesis that we have a problem of extremely presence of the state to provide loans. It does not give an opportunity to attract tools, instruments into capital. Of course, we have the limitations. So a number of recommendations are in this. And the final idea that I want to express, we analyzed more than 300 companies, small and medium enterprises, large business, and we identified that the school of entrepreneurs should be developed, which would help to assess the market, and then the managerial decisions making process, and also they providing the final product to the customers. So we have a lot of gaps in these areas, and detailedly I will be ready to answer if there are questions. So thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Bolat. So you also mentioned and emphasized what has been said by some other colleagues, that the importance of a good functioning banking sector, helping entrepreneurs, and there's definitely still some way for improvement there. You mentioned a very interesting idea, the school of entrepreneurial development, right? So for creating entrepreneurs, and of course, Nazarbayev University tries to do their best to help with that as well, with the Graduate School of Business, with our programs, and also now with this new center. So I hope we can actually generate more spillovers at that level as well from our side. You mentioned also, and that was also mentioned by some others, the role of growth and going to international markets. And earlier, Eric already mentioned the role of female entrepreneurship. So could I ask maybe, Ms. Genjebek, Asem, you are the founder of biotech Carol Company, how you view your views on how to grow out of a small business into a potentially larger business, potentially also how you view entrepreneurship in a global context, in particular, growing to international markets. Do you have some thoughts on that? And then, of course, perhaps also something on the role of female entrepreneurship. We saw in the GEM results that Kazakhstan has disproportionately more female entrepreneurship going on. So that's an interesting observation. And how should we deal with that? Could we dynamize that even more? So Asiem, if you would like to share some of your thoughts on that related to these points.
Yes, sure. Hi, Joseph. Hi, everyone. Let me continue in Russian. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this very interesting panel. Уважаемые коллеги, наверное...
Dear colleagues, so as a serious businessman, as a woman in business, as a mother, I can share my experience, because my company is not standard maybe for Kazakhstan. So the biotechnologies is not a standard area for Kazakhstan. Organic biotechnologies, new products in agrarian sector. So my friends, bankers from abroad, they tell that I covered the most interesting part for all the investment bankers, the processing, the environmentally friendly production, manufacturing, organic products, food safety of the country, health of population, and women in business. So during this short period of time, we covered a lot of issues in business. We tackled expensive price of money for businessmen. We tackled administrative limitations. We tackled logistics problems. From the point of view that I'm a woman business, I don't see any problems in Kazakhstan, because even in classic men sector like biotechnology and agrarian sector, I was accepted very well with great respect. So I think that we do not have any problems in this regard in our country. Why small and medium enterprise is not being developed? Because we have the money are very expensive for us. So the entrepreneurs that just start business, they don't know how to start. They cannot communicate with investors. They can't talk to banks. They can't study ready support programs that the state provides, unfortunately, and they Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, now. I'm sorry for this. So we tackle the following problems. I see a lot of businessmen around.
The connection is falling away again.
I'm sorry for this. Education is not sufficient. There is a lack of good programs how to present the product to investors. That's a very big direction that can be used within your school. Communication with banks. Unfortunately,
so I think if you turn off the video, it may go a bit better.
Может быть.
Sorry? No, it's somebody calling me, and that's why I'm interrupting.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Probably that our bankers stopped to understand what is the project funding. So then there is a classical project funding, and all our banks like Lombard. So you need to provide a lot to get funding. So maybe that's related to our financial regulator, the state surveillance banks. So the high rate is in the banks. Administrative problem that I can mention is huge. I had a comparison. In 2020, I started 2 projects parallelly: the construction of a plant in Turkey and construction of a plant in Kazakhstan. I wanted to receive a plot to construct a plant in Kazakhstan. During the same period of time, during 9 months in Turkey, I passed the whole way with the Ministry of Economy, and I received not only a plot in special economic zone, but I constructed a plant. In Kazakhstan, during 9 months, I just received a plot, and I fight a lot. I had to fight. This is not a special economic zone. This is just an industrial zone in Almaty. So you can see the great difference in administration. And the third problem that I tackled as the current exporter, so we already export products. I was one of the first who used QazTrade programs. I went to Alibaba, to big supplier, but unfortunately, we tackled a great problem of logistics. So despite the fact that Kazakhstan is very conveniently located, but logistically it's very expensive. So when we get a request from South African Republic we can't make anything because the price for our product due to logistical issues is much higher. So I hope I answer your question.
Great, thanks a lot, Asim. This is very interesting. This, especially a couple of points you raised. So the exports, you're already exporting, which is a major achievement. But of course, the logistical problem is also a very important constraint, and so that's important if you want to have a smooth exports business going on. You also highlighted the role of banks and the financial regulator. Earlier on in the discussion, some colleagues also mentioned perhaps we should start looking for alternative financing. Of course, there's the stock market. There's also crowdfunding techniques. There probably venture capitalists are not that much around in Kazakhstan yet, but so there's some alternative ways of financing may be very important as well. So perhaps if we move to our last panel member, Daniel Ultichov, could you perhaps share your views a bit on some of these points? Let's say the alternative financing, the problems that were raised by Asim on the logistics, and especially trying to enter international markets. Do you have experience with that, or certain thoughts on this to share with us? So please go ahead, Danyar.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, professors, if possible, I'd like to speak in Russian to clearly explain my view. Здравствуйте еще раз всем. Меня зовут Утешев.
Good afternoon again. My name is Uteshev Danyar. I'm an entrepreneur. The main project were already raised. So these are global problems, superficial problems. The main project to my mind, why a small business doesn't go to medium business and doesn't scale to the countries is the lack of knowledge. Already one of the ex-ministers raised this issue of lack of knowledge in Kazakhstan. We are lucky because we know English, we can study international literature, but unfortunately among my friends, the people do know time value money concept, so the profitability level and other minimal foundational issues are not known by entrepreneurs. And scaling of a project is impossible without this knowledge. Of course, the risks are very high. And of course, without this knowledge, they have a lack of knowledge and they are going to bankrupt, subsiding the loans and the possibility of Damu fund is not known. So the Chamber of Entrepreneurs, they help to provide tax declarations to the state bodies. So, but the support is not provided in full range for the entrepreneurs, for businesses by the Chamber of Entrepreneurs. Small business doesn't get any assistance. So this is my brief opinion, my brief overview. As you said about the hedge funds in Kazakhstan, that would be a great benefit for Kazakhstan. The people would start to understand how to assess their companies, the equity, but unfortunately, the knowledge is not sufficient. Just a single number of people understand what to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danyar. So knowledge, creation of knowledge. Again, as I am repeating myself, we hope that we will be able to contribute with Nazarbayev University through not only teaching, but also research, applied research as well, and the like. Let me go once more, and we need to watch the time a little bit. And because we also would like to leave a few moments for questions from the participants. But if you could be very brief, the panel members. So if you have to choose one key policy advice to stimulate entrepreneurship, could you please say which one it was? 1 minute. So I will start with Danyar. We'll go in reverse order. So Danyar, if you have to choose one key policy that you would recommend the government to focus on, what would it be? Danyar?
Sorry. Это, скорее всего, будет это...
Probably there's going to be assistance how to understand the financial basics, the financial structure. So what you mentioned. So knowledge.
Okay, thank you. Financial knowledge. Noted. So then we go to ASEM. What would be your key priority policy-wise? ASEM?
Sorry, I missed your question. Can you repeat, please?
So if you, very briefly, 1 minute answer. If you would choose one policy to push through to help entrepreneurship, what would it be?
Цена денег, price of money.
Price of money.
Okay, that's also finance. Thank you very much. Bolat, what would be your answer?
Можно будет вопрос задать, да?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, we'll come to the questions just after this round. I want just first to wrap up the session, and then we'll open the floor to the audience. Bolat, what would be your #1 policy? Also related to finance?
Ну, я бы две вещи выделил. Первое — это
I would
стабильность.
emphasize two things: stability of state policy in regulating taxation, tax administration. So business should understand that there are single rules that are not changed. This is the first thing. And Danyar also mentioned the program to enhance the capability of small and medium enterprises, which include the understanding of logistical processes and financing processes. And this issue should be improved.
Great, thank you. That was naughty because we only asked one policy, but that's okay. Eric,
Then the first one comes first, so I think it's the most
great.
the
Thank
priority,
you.
I would say.
Great. Eric, what would be your #1? Eric?
На мой взгляд, спасибо.
To my mind, thank you for this question. To my mind, this is the reducing of administration burden.
Yes, red tape, administrative burden, that's an important one. And then finally, Rustam, what would be your #1?
Сложно ответить так.
It's difficult to answer briefly because it's all interrelated. I would like to spend my minutes to focus your attention. Together with the government, we are being implemented project, which is called Regulation from Scratch, when we release the excessive administrative burden. That's very ambitious project that we hope for a lot.
Great, thank you very much. So again, if I group those, it's clear that finance and the price of money is an important one, stability of state policies, and then administrative burden. And Rustam also mentioned that there's programs related to that they try to do something about it. Thank you very much for this very interesting exchange of thoughts and visions. Of course, our time is limited, and I would at this stage already thank the panel members to have shared their thoughts. And I would have loved to spend more time on it, but we are time constrained. And I would like also to have the opportunity for the participants to ask a few questions. So I suggest we devote maximum 10 minutes, and before we wrap up, for questions and answers that you can have, that you can ask also the panel members. So I would suggest that we collect a few questions. So there was already one question earlier on, so please go ahead. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting thoughts here, which we can start working on. We all can start working on as entrepreneurs, as academics, and as applied researchers through the research center that was launched today as well. So thank you again for the panel. Over to you, Patrick.
All right, thank you very much, Joop, and the entire panel for a very interesting panel discussion and all the great questions that came up from the audience. I'm going to ask Professor Venkat Subramanian now to make some very brief closing remarks. And I conveniently put up some ideas while he's talking of ways that you can work with us to help move entrepreneurship in Kazakhstan forward. But Venkat, over to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you all of you. I mean, for being here today. It was a very nice and very informative discussion about entrepreneurship situation in Kazakhstan and what are the challenges we're facing here in making particularly small firms going into larger firms or medium-sized firms. And there are some common themes that came out. So just to close it, I would say, we always welcome your collaboration, your, let's say, your involvement with our research, your involvement with the school. I think Shumaila talked a lot about how you could, for example, work with the Entrepreneurship Center that we just launched, that she's the director. And so there's a lot more, I cannot say that more than what she said, but you could collaborate in the research process in multiple ways, be part of you can be part of the sample, you could provide data, for example, for us, or we can even do some custom research. So you have a problem, you have to analyze your supply chain issues. Okay, here we go, we can help you do that. Are you looking at how do you finance inventories? So, working capital management. So how do you do that? So, we can do a lot of this, let's say, specific research issues that may apply to particularly entrepreneurial situations. And also, Pat, and there was this last question from Galinjan that was about learning opportunities. So we used to do a pretty good program for DAMU some years ago, where we did this kind of courses where we went through the whole process of entrepreneurship issues, from marketing side, from finance angle, and the supply chain, etc. So we still do those individual courses. So you're always welcome to look at the website, see, or you can contact us. We are always happy to talk about what kind of specific courses that may be interesting for an entrepreneurial setup. And finally, we can also think about different types of sponsorship, if you wish, for the GEM report. So you can always help us fund research that will apply to not just to your company, but to the country as a whole. So there are spillovers not only for your own particular organization, but could be for the broader entrepreneurship system here. So that's about it. And once again, thank you very much, and thank you for coming here today. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you, Venkat. I want to thank all of you for your participation, especially Nurlan Kulbatirov, Rustam Zursunov, Eric Zambulov, Bolat Minbayev, Asem Kenjebek, Daniel Uteshov. Thank you so much for your time and your participation. From GSB, Yerkin Turgambayev, Shumaila Yousafzai, Ona Akemu, Joop Konings, and Venkat Subramanian. And most importantly, the interest and support of all you participants to this panel. You are the influencers, the movers and shakers, and the decision makers that will help develop entrepreneurship and economic growth in Kazakhstan. So we very much thank you for your interest, your participation, your valuable time spent with us. We love to work with you. We're always open to find new opportunities to help grow entrepreneurship in Kazakhstan. And with that, thank you. I will close this session now. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you soon again. Thank you so much.